Like when you come into this world, when you're born,
yeah, but I feel like you're moving the goalpost slightly.
No, I'm not because
you are, because that wasn't the question.
No, hold up. But we're talking essentialism.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
and also,
so we can discuss that. But that wasn't the question, though.
No, but
we can discuss that. But like, you can't just like throw a whole.
No. You're buying yourself thinking time.
No, that's not true. What the, bro? Hello, welcome to Think Twice. This is the philosophy show where we discuss different philosophical ideas and ideologies. And today we're discussing essentialism. My name is Benno Obano, and this is Samuel Tefra.
Hello, people.
Yeah, essentialism. In essence, it's like a philosophical concept suggesting that like entities possess inherent, unchanging qualities that define their fundamental nature. Basically, there are fundamental characteristics about people that do not change. That's essentially what essentialism means.
I like that definition.
Yeah,
strong.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
You know,
it's almost like picture perfect, that definition. I can swear I saw that on the internet.
You know, some people just remember stuff. What can I say?
Well, you got great notes.
Pardon?
Well, you got great notes.
I've got good notes. So I do good homework.
Yeah.
One of the two.
I hear it.
It basically defines like a belief about the core of the subject. And that's basically what we're going to discuss today. We're sort of going to understand what makes you you, and are you what people say you are. And also we're going to discuss the identities of companies and brands and how they're sort of perceived. We'll start with the first question. Are brand identities shaped by inherent qualities or external factors?
I think quite obviously they are basically identified by external factors. Okay. Like if we think about the world we live in, all the products that we see, all the like advertising campaigns that we see, that's what shapes the identity of these brands. Like we hear taglines from Apple. When you hear McDonald's, you think the arches, the ba-da-ba-ba-ba. How's my rendition of that? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And all these identities, they're not about the actual like ingredients inside a Big Mac. They're not about like the microchip inside the Apple device. They're about what the marketing team wants us to feel about that product.
Yeah, of
course. You see what I'm saying? So those are the external factors that make up the identity.
I sort of agree with you, but what if you push back with like the idea of vision? So like the vision of the company, what you see is maybe the vision that the founder wanted you to see.
Yeah, I hear that. And that founder, whoever it is, their vision to me is an external factor. Like that vision has come from a human mind and it's being portrayed to me as an external factor. It's not inherent to the product itself.
But it's inherent to the brand.
Yeah, and that brand, like the way the founder thought up that brand and then to market it to me is an external factor, no? Like, let's think about a product. Like, let's use a product or service as an example.
Well, like, to say, use the golden arches, right? Like, the fact that it was their vision to produce the golden arches makes it their vision and inherent quality, right?
Yeah, but if we
that's how they see it themselves. That's an inherent quality of the brand.
I don't think it is. I think the question is about the identity of the brand. And I would say the actual product of McDonald's isn't the golden arches. It's the actual burger or fries that you eat.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm saying that product that I eat doesn't shape the brand identity. The brand identity is shaped the golden arches, the marketing, the vision by the founder, whoever runs the business.
The vision is an inherent quality.
No, I wouldn't say so. I think the inherent quality is like about the product or service you receive.
No, because like a brand, for example, right?
Yeah.
So just take any company, take any brand. When you start it, say this show, for example, when you start this show, how do we want people to perceive the show? That's a vision from us, right? That's like an inherent quality of the show, of how we want it then to be perceived. That's our vision.
No, I think the inherent quality is about the product we produce. The inherent quality that comes from our mind or our vision is a quality that we have as human beings.
Yeah.
We then put it onto the product, and the product might resemble how we felt about the product and the way we planned it, our notes, the cameras we used, the microphones we used, and the lighting we used. But that is from our human, like our
Yeah, but
being.
that's an inherent quality.
To us though, to you, to Benz and to
Yeah,
Tef.
yeah.
But not necessarily the show. The show is something separate to us.
Yeah, but it's our vision, and that has to be an inherent quality. How they produce the product is an inherent quality. How you then perceive it is the external factor.
Isn't there marketing also an external factor?
Yeah. Marketing's an external factor.
But what I'm saying is, if we agree on that point, I'm saying the brand identity is made up basically by marketing. And we're in agreement that marketing is an external factor. And that's the line at which I draw to say that the brand identity as a whole is made up by external factors. Because marketing is a massive part of that.
Oh, do you say as a whole? I don't believe it's as a whole shaped up.
But in majority.
Majority, I give the majority to external factors.
That's fair.
On to our second question.
I think that was a good introduction into essentialism, because this next question is gonna get quite deep.
Well, we see.
We started off with basically inanimate objects, and now we're moving.
And now we're sort of moving to a little bit more personal.
Yeah.
So basically, the way the show's inception began was me and Tef used to discuss, probably ad nauseum, nature versus nurture. So much so that we'd go on the internet, we'd find studies, and see what the actual outcome was. To be fair, it's pretty much 50-50. It is pretty much 50-50. But I'm probably 51-49 a particular way, and Tess 51-49 the other way. So when I ask this question,
I don't know if I'm 51.
I don't know if I'm 51. Majority, I'll give you the majority, essentially.
Fair enough.
But so I have an idea of where Tef's going to go with this one. But he's going to be wrong, probably. But we'll see. Is personality fixed or is it fluid?
It's fluid.
You see, I know my brother. I know him, bro. Like the back of my hand. Oh my God.
I just think that like so much of what we perceive as someone's personality or their characteristics is shaped by society. It's shaped by their upbringing. It's shaped by how their parents treated them when they were children. It's shaped by where they live, what school they went to. All these factors come to make up someone's character. So I can't sit there and say, oh, this person's character is essential to them and is an unchangeable like thing. I just think it's fluid. You said 51, I'd go as far as like 85, 90.
What?
You know what I said.
No, but when you're actually discussing personal identity, I feel like you're sort of confusing it or conflating it with attitude and behaviors.
Okay.
And they're not the same thing. Like, for example, you can't change an extrovert to an introvert. It just doesn't happen. The science suggests it doesn't happen. That people don't change from extroverts to introverts.
Yeah.
And that's because like their personal identity is fixed. So how they interact with different situations is always determined by their personal identity. Yeah, their behaviors will change and it will fluctuate over time. And even if we understand how like the mind works and how people become less adaptable with age, even though you can change as time goes on and the brain changes up until a point of 25 and then it becomes more and more difficult to change, etc.
Yeah. The science bears that out. Yeah.
And bearing all of that in mind, I can't see how it's then fluid. How you interact with certain things may change and yeah, it fluctuates, but it's pretty much fixed. And personality doesn't particularly change that much.
So are you on 50-50?
No, I'm not 50-50.
So like, how fixed do you feel like human personality?
I feel like personal identity is fixed.
Okay.
I don't think personal identity, like sort of behaviors, attitudes to certain things are the same thing.
Okay, let's backtrack a little bit though, and let's like talk a little bit about the essentialist view, right? So essentialism, like you said, is about characteristics, about a person in this scenario. We've moved on away from things. That's basically unchangeable. They make up the core of this person's identity. Yeah. Obviously, the flip side of that might be something like existentialism, which says human beings are not born with an essential nature, but their human experience comes to define their identity and the way they see themselves and the way society sees themselves. Their experiences as a conscious human shape them. That's the view that I take. The view that an essentialist might take, and the one that you're sort of supporting here, is a human nature comes before the experience. So you're saying like, oh, they become a bit more fixed past 25, like an adult becomes less malleable basically past 25. And the essentialist view is not at 25, it's at literally the moment you're conceived. Like, do you come into this world with nature? Or like, is that nature molded after birth? You see what I'm saying? That's the question that I would ask you.
Okay.
So not at 25, at 0. Like when you come into this world, when you're born,
yeah, but I feel like you're moving the goalpost slightly.
No, I'm not, because
because that wasn't the question.
No, hold up. But we're talking essentialism. And also,
so we can discuss that. But that wasn't the question. Though.
No,
but we can discuss that. But like, you can't just like throw a whole
No. You're buying yourself thinking time.
No, that's not true. Bro, we're talking about personal identity, and now you want to flip it.
No, listen, I'll try and link it back.
Try
and justify my question a little bit. We were talking about nature versus nurture.
I gave that as an intro for the audience.
Right. Nature versus nurture is 100% in the ballpark of essentialism. Like, that is the question.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, if it's nature, this person, theoretical person, is born with a certain nature.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that they're born as a human, but they're more or less a blank slate. And I'm asking you, what is on that slate if it's not blank? I think it's pretty much a blank slate. Like, all humans have certain characteristics, like our brain is a certain shape, like our heart pumps a certain way, like we've got certain biological mechanics to our body. We experience things in a kind of standard common way. Like light comes into our eyes, our brain receives it a certain way. But past that, I'm like...
No. What you're saying is kind of fair, like, it's pretty much a blank slate.
Right. So you come up with the message.
No. I just want to give you that and then just take it away.
Take it back. I nibbled.
The idea that it's a blank slate makes sense. And because it is. But the difference is how individuals react with their environment. And that's the difference. That's where nature comes into it. So it's a blank slate as this person could theoretically be anything. But in reality, how they react with the same scenario as someone else is where nature comes into it.
Right, I see what you're saying. But so you're basically saying like there are certain base characteristics that a person is born with.
Yeah.
So someone's got like a predisposition to like courage.
Yes.
Or
exactly.
you've got a predisposition to some other like whatever characteristic it might be.
Violence even.
Yeah, I completely disagree with that. Like, all of these things, I do believe is very complex. Complex to the point where like we might not even fully understand it.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't make sense to me that these things would be predetermined at birth. Like, how is that predetermined at birth?
I don't think it's like completely predetermined. But we've got to understand that, like, so take young children, for example, and you've mentioned it before, the sort of experiment around like the chocolate or whatever. People don't react to that same environment the same way. That's basically what I'm saying. It's sort of like, it's not about what they were taught. It's inherent, because they're so young, it's inherent to them how they believe they should behave in that scenario. They're unable to logically analyze the situation in front of them and understand what they should do for the right or wrong reasons. They just do what comes naturally to them. Sort of like that gut feeling. So like people have a feeling in their gut and it doesn't come from...
You're not taught it.
You're not taught your gut feeling. Yeah. You essentially you've gained some sort of experience and this is how you feel towards a particular situation. And that's basically what's happening, that they feel a particular way to a particular situation, even though they don't know why they feel that way.
Yeah.
And that's basically what I'm saying. So it has to be nature for that reason.
I think that's a fair point. And I can accept that in some part. But you see that feeling of like, I don't know why I feel a certain way, but I do feel a certain way. That could also be that you've been conditioned at some point in your past that you can't understand. And you react that way, and you don't understand it because you couldn't understand it was linked to something happening 10 years ago in your childhood. Right? That's also a possibility.
Yeah, that's also a possibility.
Yeah, and obviously this is complicated. Like, we're talking about like fucking subconscious, like things that are happening at a very deep like level.
Of course, but
in your mind.
And so like that's why I don't particularly like to have like specific scenarios, and that's why I just have to lean towards nature, because like you can't really ever qualify that. Because essentially, if you're saying it's something that's happened to you that you don't know about, we can't qualify it because it's happened to you.
Yeah, but people go to therapy and they figure out like, oh, that time, like, you know, my mum locked me out the house like when I was 8 years old and I didn't come back on curfew. That's got something to do with my abandonment issues as an adult.
Of course,
therapists go in like deep in our psyche to figure that out.
Of course, but what I'm saying is on a large scale, I think it's more nature than nurture, essentially. I'd give more credence to nature.
I hear that. Let me try and like illuminate my suspicion with essentialism. You know that like predisposition that you're talking about, like you might be born with a disposition to, you mentioned it, violence. I feel like that line of thinking has been used to persecute human beings over the course of history. And that's why I'm so suspicious of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if I was to talk to an average, like, Met police officer, he might think, or maybe they thought in the past, that black teens had a predisposition to violence.
Yeah.
By their very nature of being black. Do you know what I mean? Not because, they've had some, like, they've been...
Not because traumatic events have happened to them.
Yeah, stuff has happened to them and they've become a certain way in response to trauma in their life, like you say. And I just feel like that's sus. And like, because it's been used in that way, that forms part of my suspicion. Like, if we go back in history...
I don't actually think there's a problem with like a predisposition to a particular character trait, personality trait.
But like the violence thing, like if a black teen does have a predisposition to violence, we do need to police them more as a society, don't we? And that's the logical conclusion the feds came to. Like, how do you deal with that? Like, they're gonna be more violent.
If someone has like, try not to say like black teen or any like group in particular. But if we're discussing like a group has a predisposition to violence, so like say this like a sort of world that we don't currently live in. A group has a predisposition to violence. All we have to do is understand that and then treat them accordingly. You don't police them more. So maybe we're arguing about solutions of how we deal with that, but I wouldn't say you police them more as a result.
I disagree that we're arguing about solutions because I don't want people to be treated differently.
Based on predispositions?
I don't think the predispositions exist anyway. I reject that notion. But like, I feel...
For any group, I don't believe it applies to like a whole group of people.
Right, okay.
Do you know what I mean? That you can have...
But you can see there's a very small jump from, this random person might have a predisposition to X, to this predisposition is linked to this characteristic.
Like people literally do. The likelihood that you have mental health problems is higher when it has been in your family before.
That's fair. I've heard that. Yeah. You read the right study on that one.
Right.
Yeah, that's...
You know, it came to me while you were talking. I said, we fucking got him.
Fuck, and you dropped it kind of quick, so I didn't have time to come back.
When that hit me, I said, yeah, we fucking got him.
Oh, shit.
So, let's round up. Is personality fixed or fluid? What do you think still?
I still think fluid, but I do hear what you're saying about certain things maybe being inherited from your... like genetically being inherited. But you hear my suspicion. Like you get my suspicion.
And
like,
a dislike for it.
Yeah, like I don't like the way it's used in political spheres to manage society, right?
Yeah.
Because if we use it, there has to come a point where we stop. And we're just like, we're not going past this point. Like someone might have a predisposition to the mental health issues, like you said, and we might offer that person more support because, you know, they require a bit more support. But there has to be a line. And like, if you think about like the lines on which like political essentialism has been drawn, it's like race, sex, gender, whether you're disabled or not. And all of these groups get treated, they've been marginalized because of that. I don't want to see a society where people are treated differently because of their race. Do you know what I mean? Treated differently because of their gender. So that's my suspicion, and I'm gonna hold on to that suspicion.
And I'm sort of with you with that. Yeah, I'm with you with that. To be fair.
Where do you like? Have you come a little bit over to my side?
No, not really. No, not at all, mate.
Wow, that's crazy.
I still think personality is pretty fixed.
Yeah.
But I do share the same suspicion.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have to, once something becomes fact, it's now used as like a stick to beat people with.
Exactly, it's used against you.
And that's problematic.
Yeah.
Like, hugely problematic. This is most people's favourite segment, where we sort of discuss like a little problem, a little dilemma. Today's quite a famous one, to be fair. It's Theseus Paradox. And it goes as, there is a ship with a captain, and over time, parts of the ship decays and is then replaced, and eventually over time, every part of the ship has been replaced, but the captain remains. Is it still the same ship? The whole point of this dilemma is to basically test essentialism, see how we actually view it. And what do you think about the ship, Tef?
That is still the same ship, for sure. Because, let me paint a picture here. Why is that ship the ship? Like, if we call it, give it a name, we'll give it Hendrix, the Hendrix. The Hendrix is the Hendrix because, like you were saying before, people perceive it to be the Hendrix. And I 100% agree with that. The reason it is the Hendrix is that human beings have given it that identity. And the way human beings see the ship is super important. And all of the experiences that humans have had on that ship, the fact that that ship is used to transport people from A to B, this is all the way humans see the ship. And that identity is completely separate from the individual parts of that ship. And it remains intact regardless of how many parts of that ship change. You see what I'm saying? The human experiences give that ship the identity. So the parts can change, but the human experiences are still there. The journeys traveled, the people who have come on board, the times they had on board, the captain having captained this crew, the crew having worked in that time period. That's never gonna change.
I sort of hear you. I was always torn. Like, when I first ever heard the question, I said, it can't be the same ship.
Really?
And then I heard that argument, and some hippie lady, lovely lady she was, she made the argument that like...
I'm waiting for the violation.
No, I'm not even, like, I actually like this, I like the lady. But she made the argument that like, there's a connection.
Between?
The parts. So like, once it changes, there becomes some sort of connection between them.
So the initial parts are connected?
Yeah.
And what did she say happens when a part's taken out?
A part's taken out, a new part comes in. It's now part of that family of parts.
Okay.
And it develops the qualities of the parts that are already there. And then as another one comes out and another one goes in, it develops those qualities and it becomes the same shit, essentially. But what I really, really struggle with is the idea that everything has changed and yet it's still the same. I don't think that can authentically be the same ship.
But let me put it to you this way. Like, why is that ship even a ship? Like, if you could tap into the consciousness of a fish, right?
Yeah.
So something that's not a human. And you ask the fish, what is this thing that you see that floats next to you in the water? The fish would be like, I don't know. They wouldn't know to call it a ship.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know what it does, and they wouldn't understand the utility of the object. And I asked this question to highlight that the identity of that ship being the Hendrix is given to it by the human understanding of that ship, the human experience of that ship. You see what I'm saying?
So it's completely reliant on everybody else's perception of it.
Yeah. The human experience and the human perception of it. Going back to the iPhone that we were talking about earlier, the marketing team of Apple give their product a meaning. I think their tagline is something like "think different" or something like that. Or like "I'm loving it" or something. The marketing team basically imbue this object with meaning for human beings through their own imagination. And I'm saying the same thing is there for the ship.
So would the same be for a company? So like, say a company, and like gradually over time, all of the people change. Is it still the same company?
I think it is the same company, yeah. Unless like the company now did something completely different and they want it to be understood in a completely different way, that they had a massive pivot. It's still the same company.
So take a human now.
Yeah.
We've got a human, they lose their memory. Is that still the same person?
That's a difficult question.
Thank you.
That's a difficult question.
And that's why I sort of wanted to pick holes in it, because like there has to be value in what is already there. Does that make sense?
100%.
Value can't be solely added by external factors.
Yeah. Well, I would argue that those memories cannot be made without external factors. You couldn't make memories in a vat like that.
Of course,
vacuum.
yeah.
But the reason why my thought process broke down there when you asked me if you completely took someone's memory, are they still the same person, is because all of those memories are that human experience. And that gives that person an identity.
Yeah, but what if that person's identity, like, because if we took the same like logic, right?
Yeah.
That person's identity is totally shaped by how I see that person or how you see that person.
Not necessarily. I'm saying like...
Well, that's the same with the company and the ship.
Kind of, but I'm saying the ship is like, there are human experiences happening on the ship.
Yeah.
It's not really about how I perceive it solely. It is about how I perceive it on some level. But there's human experiences happening on the ship that I could turn around and say one day, oh, this is not a ship. Like the Hendrix is not the Hendrix, it's a completely different ship. I might morph my perception to be that way, but the Hendrix is still the Hendrix because it had the human experiences on that ship. It traveled the journeys it did. You know what I mean? It went from A to B. It had the employment history of all those people in the past. So my perception in that instance is not important.
But a perception of that could simply just be a different ship. Someone could just see that as a different ship. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's totally your just perception of it. You're in a vacuum.
Yeah, no, they can do whatever they want. But I'm saying, like, even if someone's perception changed about it, the identity of the Hendrix is still the Hendrix because of the human experiences that have happened on the Hendrix.
Okay, so take that logic, right? So say all the experiences that have happened on the Hendrix are the Hendrix because of all the human experiences, right? So all the human experiences that has happened to that person that you've seen all these experiences happen to this person, but this person's now lost their memory. Is that still the same person?
That's where it's complicated, because to you, that is the same person.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm saying to themselves, like in their own...
And that's the same with the ship, and the same with the company.
Is it though? Because I'm saying the human experiences that is baked into our memory is like all the journeys the ship took. It's baked into the ship. You can't wipe that. You see what I'm saying?
No, but it has been wiped.
That's what I'm saying. And if you said, oh, the ship's history got wiped somehow, it would be difficult.
No, but the ship's history did get wiped.
No, it didn't, because the journey still happened.
Well, but they changed the parts.
But the parts never gave it meaning.
But the parts that did that journey aren't there anymore. In the same way, it's no longer the same ship.
Let's make it your car, yeah?
Okay.
Your car has a certain identity in your conscious.
Yeah.
A lot of what that car is to you is the things that have happened to you in the car. Do you see what I'm saying? If you were to change the wrapping of the car, it looked completely different. You took the wheels out, you put the wheels back in. It's still Benz's Tezzy. Jeez. Bare things have happened to you in that car. You've taken cross-country trips, up, down, left, right, and there's meaning baked into that car.
No, bro. If I changed the interior of that car, I changed the wrap on the car, I changed the rims on the car, I changed the color of the brake calipers, I changed the front and the back of it, and let's say I put a nice little body kit on it, that does not feel like the same car to me.
But you hear what I'm saying? That you still drove that trip that you did last week.
Let's just be very clear what your logic is here.
Yeah.
Your logic here is how it's been perceived is the way...
By humans.
Yeah, how it's been perceived is what it is, right?
It forms the identity of the thing. I'm not saying it's solely that.
Okay, it forms the identity. And I'm saying, to an extent it does, but I actually probably, throughout this argument, have shifted to the other side gradually. Because I'm like, it's actually just not the same shit, nor is it the same car, nor is it the same person, and nor is it the same company.
Damn. So my argument actually took you away.
The cat, I said to God, I was closer to you at the beginning. And I'm just like, because literally that car argument, when you brought it down to me, and I'm like, bro, if I put like a body kit on that, and I change the color, and I change the wrap on there, and say I change the number plate, my friend, it does not feel like the same car.
But if I said that's still Benz's car, if I said that to you, would that feel out of the ordinary?
Well, it would still be my car. It wouldn't be the same car.
But you see, that's the identity of the whip. The whip is Benz's car, right?
So you're saying the identity of the car is solely down to me?
No. I'm not saying solely down to you, but the way we actually speak about the car is just Benz's whip.
Yeah, but like...
No, but hold on. Let me finish.
No,
Because you're making noise because you realize the point is coming.
No, it's not good. I'm saying, quickly before you finish. When I had the Jeep Wrangler, right?
Yeah.
That was Benz's car still.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's the point I just wanted to make. That like, if the car's completely different and you're still calling it by the same name. So I don't think that's value.
Wait, what do you mean? I don't understand the last point.
Well, because you're saying like Benz's car, that's still Benz's car, right? And that's the important point, that it's Benz's car.
Right.
I was saying the truck before, the Jeep before, the Corsa back in the day.
Yeah.
They were all named Benz's car. So I don't know if there's any value in calling it Benz's car, meaning that it's now that identity.
No, I hear it. That's a fair point. But even those whips that I'm thinking about, their identity is Benz's former car now. It's still Benz's former car. Your experience of the whip is baked into that car now. That car is not separate from your ownership of it.
Yeah, but the car changes. That's what I mean. So once you change the wrap, you change everything on it, I will feel differently about the car. It will still be Benz's car, but I'll feel differently about the car.
But deep how we're talking about the whip is Benz's whip. Do you know what I mean? If you change, because let's bring it back to the ship now. The captain of the ship is the exact same thing as your car, right? Mm. And I'm saying, like, that ship is still the same ship in the same way that whip is still your whip. I would call it Benz's whip. You would call it my car, would you not?
Yes, okay, yeah. I see what you're trying to say.
Yeah. And because you call it my car, I call it Benz's car, that to me is very clearly the identity of that car. Without your ownership, that identity is completely different. Your experience of the whip, your ownership of the whip is what imbues it with identity. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I actually do see what you're saying now. I don't see it like that. I don't think my sole ownership of the car or like...
But don't think about who's going to own it later or who owned it in the past.
But that's what we're discussing. Like my sole ownership or the fact that like that is a founder of a company or the captain is still on the same ship. But it's totally tied to what that ship is or what that company is or what my car is. I don't think that has enough importance. Do you know what? I basically don't think that is an essential factor.
Right.
In the identity of either the company, the car, or the ship.
We can both agree on that.
Yeah.
We can both agree on that. Because if you think about it, like, it's just actually just planks of wood, really. Like, until it comes off the production line and we start using it and we call it a ship, it's just wood. I'm actually gutted that I took you away. Did I reel it back in a little bit?
Yeah.
A little bit.
I think that improved, to be fair. Yeah.
I had to start talking about the Tez, innit? That's what did it.
I don't know what car you're talking about, my friend. Have you got any more points you want to make about, or anything else you want to discuss, really?
I did like what you're saying about the hippie. I thought the idea of the group having meaning, i.e. the group of all of the items that make up the ship having meaning as a group. And when you swap one out and bring something in, it becomes part of that family.
Yeah. I thought that was quite interesting when she said that to me.
Yeah, and I think that's quite, it actually points to like a lot of like African collectivist philosophy. And African collectivist philosophy is about promoting the group identity above the individual identity. And there's, when I was researching this week, I came across something called Ubuntu philosophy.
Like Celtics?
Oh, is that from like the basketball team?
No, it wasn't from them. They took it from somewhere else, if that makes sense.
Is it?
Yeah, and they
Right.
brought it into when they won a championship.
Right.
I think
That
it was
was
2008.
part of their mantra.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And obviously a lot of Western philosophies about like Descartes, like famously said, I think, therefore I am. And what Descartes is doing there, he's basically promoting the individual as, you know, the unit of morality or the unit of thought, the unit of philosophy. And then those individual units might then come together as a group, but it's not important. Like, the most important thing is the individual. And I think Ubuntu basically means we are, therefore I am. And it promotes the we above the I. And I loved it. I just thought it was beautiful when I read it. And, you know, it ties in nicely with my socialist tendencies.
Yeah. And like, I did think her point was just so valid, because I do think, like, if we looked at the company, for example, characteristics in a good company, characteristics should transfer to another person. And even like in sport, for example, like once somebody comes into a team, I can probably say it firsthand that like if they're unable to become part of the group, there will be you will have to leave the group. Do you know what I mean? Like
100%.
So there must be an element of characteristics passing. I don't know if that's the case with inanimate objects. And that's where I think it's kind of hard to compare the two. And even with memories, I have the essentialist view that memories are a core factor, a fundamental part of a human.
Yeah, and their identity.
And their identity, whilst like inanimate objects don't have the same value. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's actually one philosopher called John Locke from like hundreds of years ago. He actually coined this term called nominal essentialist. So like nominal essence is that thing that we prescribe to a group or an identity past that which they're born with. So like essentialists say humans are born with a certain nature, but then obviously society does ascribe us some essential qualities after that. Like if you're a man, you are ascribed certain essential qualities. If you're black, you are ascribed certain essential qualities. And we do live in a society that already does that for us. Even if you want to say, I'm not black, I don't see race or something weird like that. Society would be like, yeah, tough luck. Everyone else still sees you that way. There's no way to escape it. So you are prescribed that essential quality. And what John Locke says is that all the things that we do in society is called a nominal essence. So you're born with a certain essence, and then, well, I don't think you're born with much of an essence. A lot of that comes after birth. But all these nominal essences are like attributed to you with like your identities. And then obviously, like you say, when you hit 25, like you're like, oh, I am a bartender, I am a this, I am a that. And that's basically you from that point on.
Identity,
yeah.
For the rest of your life.
But the point John Locke tries to make is that you're not born with these things. They are nominal and they can change. Which, I think, makes my point for me.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you learned something about essentialism, or you enjoyed our discussion about essentialism. I'm not sure if what we said was completely true. I won't lie to you. I think it was.
Speak for yourself.
We did some research. I'm not sure it was completely true.
It's a tough one. There's not a lot of fixed truths.
But really hope you enjoyed it. Anything to say?
No, thank you for joining us. I really, really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was going to be a good one, and I went wrong.
Didn't disappoint. Much love. See you soon.
Take care.
Alrighty then. Let's get to work.
Yeah, man. I'm ready to go. No, actually, they'll be starstruck.
You ready to go?
With this on?
You can if you want.
Yeah?
It's supposed to be comfortable, isn't it?
Yeah.